Hello, my name is Ryan, and if you're thinking about designing a healthy home, you're in the right place. Today I'm going to be talking to you about cooling. So firstly, what are the main documentation that you need to be concerned about is the Conservation of Fuel and Power, which is L1A, Domestic Building Services Compliance Guide. In there it just outlines the minimum efficiencies for any particular equipment that you might need to be selecting. So what types of cooling are there? So there's passive cooling and then there's mechanical cooling. Mechanical cooling is what you probably have seen before in like air conditioning systems. Anything that involves a very intense energy process to deliver cooling to the space. Passive generally uses what we call as free cooling. I'll explain in a few more techniques, but effectively it is bringing in colder air from outside into the space. Passive provides better cooling for the purposes of energy consumption, but mechanical cooling provides a lot better control for summer months. Top 3 reasons why a home overheats. 1. Solar gain. Where you provide a lot of glazing, you get a lot of solar gain from the sun. The sun will provide a huge amount of gain during the day, and if there's no way of the energy dissipating, by the time someone comes home, the space will be very uncomfortable. Secondly, internal gains. Humans give off a lot of energy, plus your TVs, cooking, all that causes the space to overheat. The third reason is that the external air temperature has exceeded comfort levels. Mechanical cooling. You've probably more than often than not seen this before. You have an external unit that is plumbed up with refrigerant pipework to an internal unit. It takes the energy out from the inside space and dissipates it externally. Pretty much what a fridge does. So in terms of external units, the size of your external unit will depend on the cooling capacity. It's always best to check with the manufacturer what they would recommend based on your layout. So what internal units are there? It doesn't really provide a great installation in terms of its aesthetics and also technically its performance, but it does get the job done in certain instances, and particularly in small rooms like bedrooms or small living rooms. But as I said, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing. Then there's the ceiling mounted ducted units. More often than not you see these in modern hotels. Air comes in through the base into a plenum and then is cooled and then ejected back into the room. This works very well in sort of hotel areas where you can build like a bulkhead in to incorporate all this. A third unit is quite popular in high-end homes now is floor standard units, where the internal air comes in through the base, then gets heated, then cooled, and then ejected up through the top. With regards to mechanical cooling, it is very energy intensive. It can use a lot of energy in a very small amount of time. This is why it's often not advised. One thing to note, some manufacturers for MVHR units try and suggest that you put a cooling coil in your supplied ductwork. I would not really recommend that because for various reasons it's debatable if it really provides the cooling requirement to the space. So what is passive cooling? Effectively, it is drawing colder air from outside inside to cool the space down and ejecting the hot air out. This can be done in many ways. The first way I'm showing on this one is called cross-flow ventilation. You open one window, open another window, the opposite side. The wind will push the air through the window and then out the other side. This is very effective. Rather than having single-sided ventilation, this is a lot more effective than just next one is high and low level openings. And the last one I'm showing here is stack ventilation. It's not that common in residential developments. In large office blocks you do look at stack ventilation. Effectively it's using a chimney effect. You have a high level opening at the top of your building. It's used to draw in air through the low level and expel the hot air out the top. This works quite well because it doesn't rely on the wind, because it just uses natural buoyancy of hot air and cold air and the stack effect. Another type of cooling is called nighttime cooling. So We are building more and more homes that are very lightweight, so this is not really that applicable. But if you can, to try and have some form of exposed thermal mass in a space, and can make quite a big difference. So in large office blocks, we've looked at providing night cooling. The same thing applies for homes. If you remember going to a Spanish villa and you walked in and it's very cold during the day, because it's pretty much a bricked up building. This is what we're talking about in terms of using the building's thermal mass to absorb the energy that the building receives during the day. So all it means is effectively at night you let the cool air come in, cool down the building. The building itself becomes very cold, it's a heavyweight building, and then during the day the building itself then absorbs the energy, and the internal space can actually still be quite nice and cool and provide a very nice environment. And that actually even works when the external air temperature actually is more than the internal air temperature. And unfortunately, as I said, we are building more and more lightweight buildings. Ironically, previous buildings were actually better during the summer than modern day new homes because of this main reason. Another sort of passive system, even though you're using a fan, is a Labyrinth Cooling system. It is actually quite good to connect it up to your MVHR unit. The one advantage of that is during the summer you get hot air, it gets cooled by the ground, and then you expel that cool air into the space. And then during the winter period it works in reverse. The cold air gets warmed up by the ground and then you expel it into the space. So it actually can be, if you're doing a lot of groundworks on site, these are relatively simple systems to install, and it is quite common if you're doing a passive house or some other low sort of energy building as well, because it is a very good way of getting some free heat and free cooling throughout the year. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful. If you have, please click subscribe. We'll be releasing a lot more videos in the future. If you'd like to know more about the Healthy Home Movement, please visit our website. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a ring or an email. Our details are on our website. Again, if you're going to build a home, please build a healthy home. Thank you.